Well, good morning, everyone. Uh, Sorry to be 2 minutes late there. I was knocking stuff over, so I had to pick everything back up. Um, I've done a couple of things already this morning before I did this, so I hope everybody's doing well. Things are changing at a rapid rate, right? We're in California, and I've been paying attention to what we're saying out here, and I'm sure we're kind of lagging behind everyone else, but we're starting to open some things up in California this weekend. Um, I guess as of Saturday, we're having retailers open up, so I'm sure that's happening around the country in terms of being able to pick things up at the door. Some salons are opening, one thing and another. Apparently, in some states, they're talking about schools opening back up soon. So um, it does seem that we're starting to take a few steps back out from the shelter at home. Um, One of the things that I want to talk about are the behavioral aspects of this to all of you. Look, because somebody changes a rule doesn't change biology. It doesn't change what's going on in terms of the contagion of anything. And I know you get tired of hearing me remind you of this, but I just want to stay in my lane. I'm not an infectious disease expert. I'm not a microbiologist. I don't deal in this kind of virus. That's not what I do. I deal in the mental, emotional, behavioral aspects of this. And what I'm saying is there's going to be a pent up appetite for getting back out there. And you're going to be on the continuum somewhere between um, really nervous about all of this to excited to finally get back out there. What I want to say is that it's endemic upon all of us to be very careful about what we do, not be scared, because we're not helpless here. We've created a real turnaround in all of this because of our responsible behavior. All of you have done that. And what I want to talk about are the behavioral aspects of this, because when you choose the behavior, you choose the consequences. You've heard me say that year after year after year, and I say it because it's one of my core beliefs about the way life works. You have choices in front of you, A, B, C, D. If you choose A, you get what's behind door A. You choose C, you get what's behind door C. And so when you make your choices, choose to go out there with responsibility. Choose to say, okay, just because somebody says I can go out there doesn't dictate how I go out there. Um, I was thinking last night when we have two boys, as y'all know, Jay and Jordan. And I think back to when I was teaching them to drive. And they both took driver's ed, but I taught them to drive before they ever took driver's ed. I remember one of the things that I always taught them, and I don't know why this was so important to me, but I always told them, when you come to an intersection and there's a light and it turns green, that doesn't mean go. Everybody thinks green means go. And I always taught my boys, no, that doesn't mean go. That means you now have the option to go. You have the legal option to go. It's still up to you to look to your left, look to your right, see if everybody's cleared the intersection. It's your option to go. It doesn't mean you have to go. It's your responsibility to make the ultimate decision, not some light that changes up there. And I don't know why, but last night when I was reading about all of these things that are reopening, that just kept coming back to me. They can say, okay, we're changing the rules, changing the law. That means we have the option to go. It doesn't mean we have to go. It doesn't tell us how to go. It just says we have the option to do more things than we legally had the option to do before. So what I'm saying is you do want to go out to the end of your driveway, look left, look right, See who's coming. Do they have a mask on? Do you have a mask on? You want to wash your hands even more than you did before. I really believe, I was talking to John Taffer recently. I did his podcast. He's done mine, and um, he's a really good friend of mine. And full disclosure, we have some business interests together. But he's a really good guy. He does a whole lot more than just yell at people on bar rescue. Um, he's a very wise guy, and he was saying that what he thinks is going to be the key to success in the restaurant and bar business going forward is more than what it was before. That now it's going to involve transparency. That people are going to want to know what's going on inside that kitchen, what's going on inside that dining room before they get there. They're going to want to see a lot of different things. And that the smart operators are going to be live streaming cameras in their kitchen so people can see what kind of hygiene is going on back there. Are they wearing gloves? Do they have on face masks? Do they have on hairnets, which people were supposed to have to begin with? But are they doing the things necessary where you have confidence if you're having something delivered from there or if you're eating there? What's going on in the dining room? Are they really keeping things clean? So realize you have the right to ask different questions than maybe you were asking before. You have the right to demand things different than you may have been even considering demanding before, expecting people to rise to a different level right now when we have something that we know adheres to surfaces, we know it is infecting people at a highly contagious rate, much more than the flu, according to what the infectious disease experts are telling me. And I've had, I think, 17 of them on, or 15 of them on in 27 shows we've done about this, and they're all very consistently telling me the same thing. Highly contagious, highly infectious, but manageable with proper hygiene, hand washing and cleaning surfaces, all of that. So as you go back out there, choose who you do business with very carefully and look for those that are transparent and are showing you what you need to see. So as you go back out there, let's maintain social distancing. Let's be sure we keep our hands washed. Let's be sure we have masks at hand. Do you need to wear them all the time? No. I mean, I live in an area where I can go walk for a mile or two and probably not see anybody. I'm more likely to see a deer or a coyote, possum or a raccoon than I am another person. And so, keep a mask around your neck if you're that way. If you see somebody coming, pop it up, walk past them. Some people forget. They go up, hey, stick their hand out, say, don't mean to be rude, but thank you, but no. I've been reading some of the rules that the restaurants are going to be using now. I frankly don't see how they are going to make it. I'm told that restaurants operate on a very narrow margin, 15%, something like that. And now they're saying they're going to have to take out half of their tables or more. I don't know how they're going to survive doing that. They're going to come to your table with the food. They're going to have gloves on. They're going to present the tray and ask you to take it off yourself, which I think is a damn good idea. I would rather handle my plate and food more than I would somebody else right now. So they may come up, set up the little stand, put the tray on there, and ask you to serve yourself. Not because they're lazy, because they're trying to be hygienic. So, expect that. They're expected to change gloves between every table. Watch for these things and see if people are maintaining the standards that you think they need to do. So as we go out, I'm just saying, let's be careful. This isn't going to be a success-only journey. There are probably going to be some places where when they start stepping out, there's going to be a surge, and there may need to be a pullback. And if that's the case, let's cooperate. Let's pull back. Let's make sure that the hospitals in the different areas have surge capacity if there is an uptick. And let's not forget that we need to continue to provide personal protective equipment for all of our first-line responders. And let's remember that those people that have been on that first line, they have been seeing some things that they just were not intended to see. When you see as much death as some of these folks have been seeing, and I've heard people say, "Well, that's what you signed up for." No, it's not. And this is going to have far-reaching implications for some of these people for a long, long time, and we're going to have to deal with that. That's what I've been talking about for everyone, and especially for those first-line responders. And I'm working on some programs now that you'll be hearing more about in the very near term for those first-line responders to help in that regard. So if it works for them and helps them, it'll help you as well. I want to talk about today's show, but let me answer some questions first. Ruthie Darlene Amos says, "Hi, Dr. Phil. Why am I so emotional lately?" By the way, I don't read these questions until I read them to you, so I have to kind of think on my feet. Hi, Dr. Phil. Why am I so emotional lately? I cry over the silliest things. I'm a security dispatcher and still work 40 hours a week, but feeling sad for what we are all going through. Well, Ruthie, I would read your question back to you because your answer is inside your question. You say, I'm a security dispatcher and I'm feeling sad for what we're all going through. Why am I so emotional lately? Well, because you're a security dispatcher working 40 hours a week and you're sad for what we're all going through. You are an empathetic person. I mean, you have feelings for this. You care about other people and you're sad for the fact that families are losing loved ones. We're approaching 70,000 lives lost in the United States right now. There's a lot of suffering of people having this disease. A lot of moms and pops are losing their businesses. 30 million people are out of work. Everything is just seemed to have run off in the ditch. And that is a very sad situation. You know, every once in a while, I'll be sitting around and it hits me, oh my God, what has happened here? I mean, oil went to minus $37 a barrel. I think of all the people that work in the oil field, the oil industry, and everything that flows down from that. This has been a massive, massive impact, and the pain of that has yet to hit full effect because people have been burning through their savings. They've been burning through their coping energies and skills, and now all that's kind of running out. And pretty soon, people are going to start expecting their rent to get paid again, and jobs are going to be not there. I mean, this is going to be a difficult time, which is why I've been saying quarantine comes at a price. Does it save lives? No question it saves lives. Is it a price that is worth it to pay? No question. But it is a price. Depression, loneliness, PTSD, anxiety, acute stress disorder, all of these things start rising up, and we have to be prepared to deal with them. So that's part of what you're experiencing here. The more you talk about it, the more you share with other people, the more you tell them how you're feeling, you'll find that you're not alone and you're in this together. And that helps to know that there are others that share those feelings with you. Araceli Yates. Why do I not ever get good names? Whatever happened to Sue and Bob? I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. If where we live is not making a big deal out of this, is it better to just go with the flow? Look, you have to make your own personal choice about what you do. There are areas of this country that are not nearly as affected by this as other areas. Wyoming, Idaho, North and South Dakota, Hawaii, some of the states that the population density is so much less, then the incidence of this disease is much, much less. And so it's not that people are being reckless in not taking it as seriously. It's just that it's different uh, for people in it's different for people in different states. I'm looking at one of my favorite websites. It's called worldometers.info, and it's worldometers.info, and it says there are 1,277,606 cases right now, 76,052 deaths, 214,276 cases recovered. And then when you go down, it gives you each state. And when you get down, when you look at the first 4 or 5 states with the highest density, New York, 337,000 cases, New Jersey, 134, Massachusetts, 72,000, Illinois, 68,000. You take the top 4 and combine those, it's more than the other 46 states combined. So there are those hotspot areas. But you get down into some of the other states, and you look at the incidence of deaths and cases. Wyoming, 631 cases. 631 cases is all they've had, a total of 7 deaths. Hawaii, 626 cases, 17 deaths. Montana, 16 deaths. Alaska, 10. Vermont, 53. West Virginia, 51. Maine, 62. North Dakota, 31. Idaho, 66. So all of those cases, all of those states, you get out of the top, once you get out of the top 10, roughly, you get into triple digit deaths. And I'm not saying those are okay, but it drops dramatically. So some states, because of the less density of population, aren't nearly as impacted. And when we look at new deaths, no new deaths in New Mexico, no new deaths in Arkansas, Oregon, 2 in South Dakota, none in New Hampshire, Idaho, North Dakota, Maine, West Virginia. Vermont had 1, Wyoming had none, Hawaii none, Montana none, Alaska none. So in a lot of areas, this is just not having a very big impact, in part because they've been very responsible in controlling it. But after you get out of the top 4, Texas, 5 new deaths, Georgia, 9, Louisiana, 41. I mean, it's really much more controlled. So, and we do have some hot spots clicking up, but yes, there are areas that aren't reacting as much shelter in place because they just don't have the incidents. And maybe they don't have the incidents because they've been less dense and they've been sheltering in place. Lisa Marie says, would you go back to work if you were a dental hygienist? I'm immune compromised and have high blood pressure. My office opens back up today and they won't hold my job. Look, if you're immune compromised, you're in a very different situation. And again, it has to do with transparency. What is the commitment of your office? Robin had to go to the dentist recently during this shelter in place because she had a little bit of an emergency, and they were seeing emergencies only. And they had one patient at a time. They had her leave her shoes outside, her mask outside their door, step into booties that they provided, a gown that they provided, gloves that they provided, a mask that they provided. Everything was hygienic. Everything was washed down. They were all in like space-looking suits. They wouldn't even use a drill because it vented to the outside air, and they were afraid saliva or anything from her respiratory tract would vent into the outside air and create a hazard. So they had to do it without that. And that is a level of commitment. I don't think I'd be afraid to work in that office, but I don't know what it would be in your office, particularly with you being immunocompromised. You need to tell them very clearly where you are and assess how much of a caution they're willing to take? And are you able to work in an area which the government is recommending that those that are higher risk are partitioned off in an office where they are able to do work that puts them further away from the risk of being infected? Can you be partitioned in some way? Can you be isolated in some way where you can contribute to the work of the office without being in the high risk areas? I would ask a lot of questions. And of course, they have to fill the job, but you have the right to ask those questions. Beth Lavigne says, what are your thoughts on the statistics that we do need some bacteria and germs to build our immune system? That all of this sanitizing goes beyond kids crawling and eating out and actually hinders our natural defense system. Clearly, we do build up immunity just naturally in our environment. If we all lived in a bubble and then went out, the infectious disease experts tell us that we wouldn't build up immunity to some natural invaders from the outside, whether it's bacteria or viral pollens, whatever it might be, that could trigger us into allergy attacks or whatever. I suppose they can answer more about that. And that's a question that I would ask on the website of the National Allergy and Infectious Disease website. That's where Dr. Fauci is from. I would ask that question there for detailed answers. But we've been in this for 8 weeks, and what the experts are telling me is that in 8 weeks, we're not going to kill off all of our natural defenses against these things. It would take much longer than that to do that. But you ask a very logical question. We grew up with the 5-second rule. You drop something on the floor, you pick it up and eat it. I'm not suggesting that was a good idea, but we all lived and got through it because we kind of built up these immunities, I guess. But I think right now we're talking about something that is novel. You don't hear it often, but when you hear somebody talk about this highly descriptively, they say novel coronavirus SARS-2. There was a SARS-1. There will probably be a 3 and a 4. But their point is novel, meaning we have no antibodies for this. This isn't something that we've naturally built up an immunity to across time because there's nothing like it in our environment before. This was a novel virus. So you ask a very logical question, and I would refer you to the National Allergy and Infectious Disease website, which Dr. Fauci is associated with. He's actually not with CDC. He's with the other website. Let's talk about today's show. Recently I said that I felt like we were reaching category fatigue a lot on this coronavirus and COVID-19. And I've been reading an awful lot of what you guys have been saying on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Dr. Phil's website, drphil.com. And what you've been saying is, well, really two things. I'm really frustrated that you're getting preempted an awful lot. So are we. That seems to be letting up. I think maybe we'll have less of that going forward. So I hope you'll continue to tune in. The second thing was, boy, we would love to see some good old-fashioned Dr. Phil shows. We would love to see some of the content that we've come to make part of our lives and part of our days for so many years. And we made the decision that throughout the rest of May, that was exactly what we were going to do. And this may be a little too inside baseball, but May is what they call a sweeps period, which is really important for advertisers. And so sometimes usually they want us to take what we think are some of our most interesting and compelling shows and kind of save them for May and run them during May. And that's exactly what we had done because we didn't know this pandemic was coming. So we have some amazing shows for May. Today is the second part, and if you missed the first part yesterday, we'll catch you up in the beginning. We'll give you a complete synopsis at the beginning. But this is about Norma, and this is one of what we call our catfish shows that are so heartbreaking. But this is a precious woman. She is so sweet and so gullible. But she's on in years. And she's fallen in love, not once, not twice, but 3 different men that she's met on the internet. She hasn't actually seen or been in the same room with a single one of them. And they've taken her for $250,000. $250,000. Everything she had saved up for retirement, she's gone into debt. She's borrowed from friends, sent them money. And 3 of these guys have been feeding her full of so much bull you can't believe it. One of them, Jeff Coleman, says he's stuck in a basement in a church in Cairo and just needs money to get home. Boyfriend number 2, 62-year-old James Justice. How ironic is that name? Stuck in Poland. He just needs money to get home. And when he does, he's going to show up a millionaire and marry her and carry her off into the sunset. Boyfriend number 3, 73-year-old Richard Baldwin, he's stuck in Dubai. I hate it when that happens. She was expecting Jeff to come home on a Pan Am flight because that's what he told her. When was the last time you were on a Pan Am flight? They went out of business in 1991. But he said he's coming home on a Pan Am flight. Said he's stuck in Cairo, living in the basement of a church through the generosity of these priests. I actually put somebody on the ground in Cairo. This church does exist. We found a church. They have no basement. They've never heard of Jeff Coleman. I mean, it's obviously all a scam. We had to explain that to her. She speaks to these men on the phone. And, this is a tough thing for me because I have to tell these women, it's usually women, not always. I've had several men. And understand it breaks their hearts. They mourn the loss of this relationship. Plus, they're coming to the realization that they've been bankrupted. They'll never get this money back. There's no Prince Charming coming to give them back their money and make them millionaires living in a big mansion somewhere. They mourn the loss of the relationship and their money as well. I have another one of these later in the month that I've done a lot of these. I've never seen one like this. I have never seen one like this. It involves something called white money, where they actually gave this woman suitcases full of money, and it's been disguised. They tell her it's been disguised as white money, meaning that it's real currency, but it's coated in this secret formula white coating, and you take it and wash it in this special solution that dissolves the white, and underneath are $100 bills. And they met her alone in a hotel room with suitcases full of this money. And they made this solution up and they washed it off, and sure enough, $100 bills. And he's, wow. So, okay, so hold on to this, and we're coming with a solution and we'll work it out. But you got to give us some money to ship it over here and all that kind of stuff. We're in this together. It's typing paper that's cut up. They took like $300 bills and coated them and used that as bait. And she went for it like Jesse went for the train. I could not believe this. It's just heartbreaking. We have a lot of things coming up this month that are just kind of vintage Dr. Phil that I think are very relatable. Some of it's very inspirational. It's very heartwarming. And we welcome you back to the normal Dr. Phil content. I think it will be refreshing and remind you what life is really all about. So I hope you'll be tuning in for that. Check out whengeorgiasmiled.org. It's Robin's Foundation website. One of the things that's happening right now is those that are subject to domestic violence are really suffering right now. The shelters are hurting badly because they're just not getting the donations that they need to feed, clothe, and house the women and children that are escaping these horribly abusive relationships. And we're in a big fundraising campaign right now. 100 cents out of every dollar donated goes to these shelters. No overhead, no nothing. Um, Even $5 makes a difference. $10. We've had donations as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars from individuals, and as small as $5. Every bit of it counts and helps a victim, and particularly these moms and children getting out of these tough relationships. We're passing this money right on to these shelters that we've studied, vetted. We know who they are. We know how they spend the money. We're trying to help these victims. So help us, help them. We very much appreciate it. Okay, guys, that's it. This is Thursday. I will not be here tomorrow, but I will be back next week, and we'll be talking to you then. Stay safe. If you're opening up this weekend, green light means you have the option to go, not the requirement to go. Do it the way you want it, when you want it. Stay safe. Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.